is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down, whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well.
Ooh-wee, that was a good one.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine little radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Nice to have you on board for show number 211. Now, 211, I was trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean? So it's like,
That's halfway to 300.
well, it is halfway to 300, but like in slang, in verbiage uses, 411 or the 411, that's the lowdown, the information. 311.
Oh, the 211 is what you call when you have to dig.
Oh, is that? No.
Yeah,
is that right?
That's 211 when you got to dig and you need to tell them to come
Well,
check where the lines are and stuff.
I know 311, in addition to being a rock band out of Omaha, 311 is, in some states, the police code for indecent exposure. So there's that. But 211, see, I was thinking back to the days when I was a kid. My dad used to watch that cop show, Adam 12. You remember Adam 12?
Vaguely, yeah.
One Adam 12,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
Adam 12. Well, whenever there was like a robbery that they were being dispatched to, they always said it was a 211 in progress. So I don't know if that's used by police departments everywhere. If we have any like police officers who are watching the show live and are on the show notes, please chime in. Is 211 a robbery in progress? If so,
if only there was a device.
if so, that would be perfect for today's
Or
for
a
today's
Wiki
show.
Brian.
Yeah, or a Wiki Brian. Yeah. If only we had a guy like that with access to
Bruce
the
is pretty good
interwebs.
like that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen Bruce on here yet, though.
So 211's in progress here at Smokin' and Toastin' show number 211. Today we will talk about the most underrated whiskeys. We have a list from whiskey experts. I don't know if they consulted Chris
So
Hart
this is
or
a
not.
list from Chris?
Well, it's a list from some whiskey experts. I don't know if he was consulted on this or not. We'll have to ask him. Maybe he's watching the show today. Anyway, whiskey experts have put together a list of the most underrated whiskeys, which I thought would be interesting to share because, after all, you always hear about the big ones.
Yes.
But what are the ones that are like kind of floating under the radar? And then I will also let you know that I've taken a peek at that list already, and I think I have one of those whiskeys for us to taste
See,
today.
one of the problems, though, is when you come across a good underrated whiskey that no one knows about, you want to keep it secret and keep it safe.
Well, yeah, so we're going to violate that today. We're going to let everybody know if these are indeed underrated, and then they'll become impossible to find. And then the good news, though, is that once they're completely impossible to find, they then will be perfect for Chris Hart to sample on his show.
That's right.
Because that's what he does. Is he should call the show, instead of Whiskey Neat, he should call it Chris Hart's Impossible to Find Whiskeys.
Bruce says he is here after all.
Hey, what's up, Bruce? Nice to have you watching and listening. We appreciate it. On the show today, in addition to the whiskey I mentioned, and I'll just tell you what it is now, it's Great King Street blended Scotch whiskey. And one of the things that I was reading some stuff about this week was saying, the author of the article I was reading was saying, do not be afraid of blended Scotch.
Don't.
He says, we always get this, single barrel, vibe in our mind.
Actually, be afraid of Johnny Walker Red. Okay, that's not good.
I agree. Be very afraid.
That is it. But the black is drinkable. And,
yeah, the black's not bad. I have a bottle of black at home.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of blended whiskeys that are great. You know what? Monkey Shoulder is a blended whiskey.
And boy, is that good.
It's a blended Scotch, and it's amazing.
Yes. So
and it's not even very expensive.
We'll be trying a blended Scotch today. It's the Great King Street blended Scotch whiskey, which does occupy a slot on this list of most underrated whiskeys that we'll be talking about. From beer territory, it's November. We promised you back before Halloween that we would be tasting at least one pumpkin beer every week all the way through Thanksgiving. And so today we'll be tasting Wasatch Brewery's Pumpkin Seasonal Ale.
Nice.
It doesn't have a fancy name. It's just Pumpkin Seasonal Ale.
Wasatch is quality, though.
If you remember, though, they're the guys. That's
Nicely
great.
done.
Wow, very nice. If you remember Wasatch, aren't they the guys that did that black pumpkin lager that was one of the first things that we tasted? Oh, that was so good. Oh, that was so Blackaween, was that what it was called? Well, I can't remember the name of it now. We'll go back and look. It was good, whatever it was.
It's something like
that.
It
was really, really...
Black-o'-lantern.
Black-o'-lantern. That's great. So this is a different pumpkin from them. It's their Pumpkin Seasonal Ale. So we'll be trying that today.
Awesome.
Also, from Parish Brewing Company, one of my all-time favorite breweries.
Awesome.
breweries. They have something new, or at least new to me. I saw it for the first time and grabbed a 4-pack. It's the Atticus Atlas Triple IPA. So we'll be trying that out. Those guys make great IPAs.
Yeah, well,
So,
everything they've had,
I'm
everything
pretty
they
psyched.
made, I've been
Yeah.
pretty happy with.
Yeah, pretty psyched. And then finally, from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and Westbrook Brewing Company, we'll be trying their Mexican coffee cake Imperial Stout. So
That
something
sounds
that's,
awesome.
Yeah,
From who?
From Westbrook Brewing
Westbrook,
Company
okay. That sounds
in
awesome.
Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. So a lot to look forward to on the program today. Cigars for Warriors are launching a whole new fundraiser. They launched this week. We'll tell you about that.
Bruce put in here, by the way, from Google, 211 means police code for robbery.
Robbery. Okay, so that makes sense.
But if you
211
dial
Brothers.
it, I think that's where they look for
That's
your
where the I
underground.
I'm about to dig. I need to know if I'm going to electrocute myself.
Right, I think that's
Yeah.
201.
Okay, got it. Brewers across the country have picked 5 of their favorite beers for 2020, so we'll share that with you today. And, of course, we talked about the list of the most underrated whiskeys. That's coming up. A homemade humidor caused a major scare at an airport. I'll tell you how that happened. And we have drinking news on the program today. Our drinking news headline today, Stop Me If You've Heard This One Before. So...
Cheers, y'all.
that's the musical tease for
That's right.
For drinking news. So anyway, a lot of great things coming up. A lot of lists coming out for the end of the year. So we won't have time to get to them all, but I can guarantee you that from now until probably the end of January, we'll have more lists than we can handle. I guess there must be a thing that, like, if you post a list on the internet, it must get lots of clicks.
We'll have to have a top 5 lists of the lists.
Yeah. Oh, our top 5 lists that we've done this year. I think
That's right. Top 5 lists of our lists.
That reminds me of when back in my radio days, I was working for a radio station that got bought by a company. The company still exists. They don't do radio anymore, but the parent company was an insurance company. They advertise all the time on television. And I don't know if you know this, but insurance companies are about the most sort of corporate, conservative business type companies that are out there, right? And they didn't quite know what to do with this little alternative rock station they bought because it was way out of their wheelhouse. But I do remember when they came in and took over, they had forms for everything. If you wanted to go down the hall to the men's room, there was a form you could fill out to go to the men's room. I'm exaggerating about that, but I'm not exaggerating about this. They got us all together and tried to explain in a big meeting all of the forms that were available. And then they said, and I'm not making this up, that if we needed a form for something and that form didn't exist, that we could fill out, and they held up a piece of paper, the form request form. That is, yeah, that's how.
What do you even say about that?
Like I'm not making that up. There actually was a form request.
Did the
form.
guy that told you that, the person that told you that, did they realize the ridiculous?
No, and that's I guess either the beauty or the horror of it is that most people in those situations have no idea how ridiculous they are.
Now, let me talk about how ridiculous insurance companies are in the first place. How much money do you pay in insurance in a year?
Oh,
like, you don't have to give me. Yeah, you pay a
gazillions.
lot of money.
Yeah,
like,
thousands of dollars.
Okay,
yeah.
right. And then you file one claim,
Dropped.
and they get so like, well, you have to justify it and blah blah blah,
Oh, yeah.
and
Well,
then they can drop you or they penalize you
remember,
for it
and
and
this
charge
is-
you more money for taking back a tiny amount of money that you spent.
Of course. Well, listen, it's a for-profit business, and not that I have any problem with for-profit businesses, but I think we got to reevaluate the way we look at some of these things. I mean, these guys are out there trying to make money just like the guy that owns the hardware store is trying to make
Right.
money. So they're going to do whatever they need to do. That's why after you pay them all this money, they have people they hire whose job it is to make it really, really hard for you to take any money back.
Yes.
And it's really a difficult thing. That's why they hire Flo and Talking Lizards and people like that to like promote
Make
this
them
all
seem
to you,
friendly.
to make them seem friendly.
They're not.
I will tell you this: I've often said that people can be very critical of lawyers. There's plenty of lawyer jokes, and lawyers are not necessarily. It's not necessarily considered by a lot of people to be an honorable profession, right? I don't have a problem with it, but a lot of people do. Well, here's my thing: if I hire a lawyer and I pay him or her money, they are totally and 100% on my side. They're fighting for me, for my case, for my situation, for my defense, whatever it might be. I may be paying them, but they're on my side. You pay insurance companies for most of your life, and
Yes.
they're never on your side.
You are
I don't
legally
care if that's their
required to
slogan.
pay them.
Yeah, I don't care
That's
if that's
why.
your slogan. It's not true.
That's why you are not legally required to pay a lawyer. You're not legally
Right.
required to have a lawyer that
right.
you pay.
But if you want to drive a car,
But if you want to drive a car, you are legally required to pay insurance, and then insurance gets mad
yeah,
if they have to come back and recompense you at some point. Here's a conversation I had years ago with an insurance company. Well, the insurance company, Mr. Barry, is designed to put you back to where you were before the accident. Well, before the accident, I had a car.
that's right. That's exactly
I had
right.
a vehicle. Well, we're going to compensate you for that. I didn't have a check before the accident. I had a car.
Right.
That's the way it works.
Exactly.
One of my favorites, too, is I had a vehicle. It had, and I'm not exaggerating this even remotely, I bought a brand new truck. This was like in 2000. I got rear-ended. It had 517 miles on it.
Wow.
Like, that's how new it was.
Mm-hmm.
Got rear-ended. The insurance company, I had to reject it twice, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The insurance company put a refurbished bumper on it
Yeah.
and then tried to tell me, well, it's a used truck.
Because it's got 517 miles on it.
I said, I'm not accepting that. You will put a new bumper on this.
And
There's
you,
no way.
and you won this.
They did this
Wow.
reluctantly. The other thing I had to reject it from is if you get hit from the back and on a truck, sometimes the bed moves slightly.
Right.
And the bed was all crooked on it when they tried to give it back to me the first time. I was like, no. And then the insurance tried to say, well, you can't reject this because you have to give back your rental car. And I'm like, well, you get your rental car back when I get my truck back, right?
Right.
That's the whole
That's the way it
purpose of the
works.
rental car,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, but they try to make it as difficult as possible.
Oh, man.
For them to have to pay anything.
Why do I even have to have that conversation?
I don't know, but if just talking about this, I need some beer or a whiskey or something. I mean, this will get me all worked up. Let me ask you about something much more positive, or at least I hope it's positive. Did you smoke anything interesting this week?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes. Why, yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I went and had a nice time this morning. I went by the Casa and said hi to Steve. He was there.
Steve, I love Steve.
And I picked out Ramon
Ramon
Allones.
Yep.
It autocorrected to Ramon Allowed.
Well, but we all know.
This is the
Ramon.
Ramon Allones AJ Fernandez.
Oh, nice.
So I hadn't seen this before, and I was just looking for something I hadn't seen before. I was feeling, saucy, wanted to do something different. And so I picked up a Toro. This is the 6x52 Toro. The wrapper's a Medio Tiempo Nicaragua wrapper, Nicaragua binder, Nicaragua filler. The appearance on this, they had 3 labels on this. They had the Ramon Allones label that says AJ Fernandez very small. I think AJ Fernandez is making the Ramon Allones cigars now.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the deal now. That's his company just makes them now. And then it has a secondary wrapper that all the blends from AJ Fernandez always had that says AJ Fernandez
It says
on it.
AJF, yeah.
Right, and then it had the cedar wrap that went down the last half of the cigar, so you couldn't see much of the cigar when you pick it
Pretty
up.
covered with the bands and
It's
the
covered
wrap.
with
Yeah.
bands and a cedar wrap, but it looks really nice. When you pull the cedar wrap off, you get this beautiful, beautiful dark brown wrapper that's smooth, a little oily, firm, solid feel overall with the cigar, and an oddly heavy little cigar. Like, have you ever picked up a cigar? You go, this is oddly heavy.
It feels like a little heftier. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Some
Yeah.
of them feel really light. Then there's
Yeah.
kind of a medium, and then
Yeah, and some of them you don't think about, but this one was oddly heavy. The pre-light sniff on this, there was not a real super heavy aroma coming from the cigar, but when I put my nose up to it, pleasant tobacco, cedar, sweet cappuccino, a little creamy kind of smell coming on, vanilla going on in there, and some fermented hay in the background
Sweet.
on that. Yeah, it was really really nice, fragrant, as light as it was. Pre-light draw, I used a clip. It had a light draw to it. Not effortless, but pretty close. Tangy hay is what I got, like right at the lips, and initially, I lost my place. Yeah, A touch of coffee, chocolate, cedar, spicy pepper. Those are all things that I kind of got right off the pre-light draw on that. The initial light had kind of a sneaky pepper blast. Like you lit it, and at very first it was like cedar and then pepper. Very
the
Nicaraguan.
AJ trademark.
Yeah, very Nicaraguan cigar. Yeah, but not a harsh pepper. A very nice, big, spicy pepper, but not harsh. Big cedar woody notes, tangy on the lips. The first third of the cigar, pepper, cedar, earth, big full flavor. Hay and a dark raisin note kind of in the background. Bitter sweetness going on the whole time. Hints of baking chocolate and creamy cappuccino kind of threading through there. Solid ash, perfect burn. I forgot my lighter, by the way. Lit it with a match. It was really nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that very often.
Yeah, it's cool to do that.
I'm usually outside, so lighting it with a match sometimes.
Tougher, yeah.
The second third of this, wood and sweet cappuccino interplay with earth and hay. Pepper remains a constant spicy background. Tangy wood and vanilla on the lips. Solid ash, perfect burn.
Nice.
This was a pretty good cigar up to this point so far. The last third of this, cedar and sweet cappuccino take over. Underlying pepper and spices remain. Retrohale is cedar and baking chocolate. Solid ash, perfect burn. This is definitely a full flavored cigar. I wouldn't say it's the fullest of full flavored cigar, but it's
Pretty full.
It's pretty full. And quite good, smoother than you'd think. No harshness throughout. It is, however, pricey. It's $12
Okay.
for this. I did go for. They had a smaller size, and I went for the Toro instead of the Corona. But because it just felt like I had a little extra time, I smoked a bigger cigar.
Sure.
It was a long smoking cigar. It took me an hour and 20 minutes almost to smoke the cigar, and I wasn't neglecting it. I give it a solid 5.
Okay.
Solid 5. It's worth everything you
At
pay
that price,
for.
that's a good
at that
thing.
price,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. It is a $12 cigar, but worth picking up and saying, you know what, I'm smoking a $12 cigar today. This is the one, and so worth every penny.
Excellent. Well, I did something, I may have mentioned this on the show last week, but I had ordered online a bundle of Rocky Patel cigars that I seem to be getting a really, really good deal on. So today I'm going to tell you about my tasting experience with the Rocky Patel Short Run Toro. And there it is right there. Yeah, we'll have the pictures up, but there I brought you one. So I brought one for you, one for Adam.
I'll wait to say thank you until after the review.
Oh, yeah. You might want to wait. So this Rocky Patel blend is only available from Holtz Tobacco in Philadelphia or from their online website. You can buy it online, which is what I did. The story behind this cigar is, or I am told, is that Rocky wanted a cigar for his line that would have the same kind of clout and image as like a Fuente Opus X or the Padron Family Reserve or the Ashton VSG. He would go to these very sort of like high-end cigar events and sees people, kind of like showing off, smoking those. And he's like, I need something like that for my line. So he went to his blenders and he had them use the oldest and most rare tobacco he could get his hands on, or at least that's how the story goes. Somewhere along the way, after these cigars were rolled, the first, sort of small batch of them, he kind of lost interest in the project and wound up selling the whole batch to Holtz. He probably was, busy with one of his other blends and other things took over more importance, or maybe he just wasn't getting what he was envisioning out of this cigar. So he sells the whole batch to Holtz, and they own all of them, and they're pretty reasonably priced. They've got the whole inventory, and they sell them by the bundle. About the only thing we know about the tobacco in this, it was obviously made in Honduras at Rocky's factory, but about the only thing we know about the tobacco in this is that the wrapper is a San Andres Oscuro wrapper, so it's nice and dark. So I tried it. The pre-light on this cigar was extremely earthy, with notes of cocoa powder as well. I used a punch. I lit it up with no problem. Some nice pepper in the first puffs, not like that Nicaraguan blast, but there was some there. And the early flavor was, the pepper was a little mellower than what I thought. Not the pepper, but the earthiness was a little mellower than what I thought based on what I'd sniffed on the pre-light. I thought this was going to be one of those really deeply earthy cigars. It was definitely there, but not quite as overpowering as I thought it might be. About a third of the way in, the cocoa flavors became more prominent, and it really morphed into more of a almost dark chocolate kind of flavor, which I really like. So I got leather and baking spice as well. Not the most unusual aromas for a cigar, but they worked well together. I picked up espresso notes as it smoked, a little bit of a nuttiness that I'm going to say was most similar to almonds. I'm still kind of learning to identify specific nuttiness in a cigar. There were notes of dark leather that kind of worked their way in and out, as well as oak, and it had a nice tingle on the tongue. It was medium-bodied, great construction, nice even burn all the way through. So, is this cigar on the level of the Opus X or the Padron Aniversario? So, short answer for the short run, no, it's not. Now, I can see why Rocky may have abandoned his original ideas for these, because there's no way you're going to smoke one of these and then smoke a Padron Aniversario and say, okay, these are in the same league.
Right.
But here's the thing. The regular price at Holtz for this cigar, if you buy it in the bundle, regular price, $2.70 a stick. If you get it on special, which I did, it's closer to $2.30 a stick.
Wow.
That was why I bought them. I was like, unless they're just absolutely terrible, they should be worth this price. So, for a couple of dollars more than the price of a box of 10 Padron Family Reserves of the same size, I can buy 80 of these.
Wow.
Yeah, I can buy 4 bundles of 20 cigars. I can buy 80 of these Rockies for the same price, give or take a buck or two, of one box of 10 of the Family Reserve.
80 cigars will keep you going for almost a month.
I didn't even price, or in my case, about a week. But I didn't even price it compared to the Opus X, but the Opus X may be even more expensive than the Padron Family Reserve. So, is this in the same category as those super ultra premiums? No. But is it an awesome humidor filler? Damn right it is.
Nice.
And price to quality, a 7
wow.
for this cigar. Because it was really good.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't enjoy it as much as my normal, $8 to $9 AJs that I smoke, or even some of Rocky's other cigars that I've had that I've really, really liked. But there wasn't anything about it I didn't like. It just didn't have quite as much complexity, quite as much of the flavors that I crave. But is it worth every penny of $2.70? You better believe it. So there you go. Rocky
Patel.
That's,
I
short
love
run.
finding
Yeah.
an inexpensive cigar that's awesome.
So I'm going to tell you, I don't think I can think of another cigar I've had at under $3 that comes close.
Wow.
So there you go. I mean,
So I've had a few of the Drew Estate Factory smokes recently.
yeah, those are great. I
and
love
they're
those.
fine.
And
They're very single dimensional.
are they around $3 a piece?
They're $2.
They're $2. Okay, yeah, but you're
$2.
right. They're single dimensional. One of the
They're very
things about
single-dimensional.
this cigar, even though again, it didn't give me what you're going to get from an Ashton VSG in terms of complexity, but it wasn't one dimensional.
This is a great looking cigar. Let me ask you this. What if this was a $7 cigar?
I probably would say I don't feel like I got ripped off, but I don't know if I'd go back to it all the time.
Right.
At $7, because for seven or $8, I
There's
can
a
get,
lot in that price
I can start creeping
range,
into like a San Latano by AJ or something.
Right,
so,
right.
So it wouldn't hold up quite as well against other cigars in the price range, but I wouldn't go, oh man, I got totally ripped
sub
off.
$3
Yeah.
is
Right.
amazing.
Sub $3, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you want 10 of the of the Padrones, or do you want 80 of those? 80. That's that will remain the question. Okay, we're going to take a break. I got after all that insurance talk, I need to drink something. So let's jump into some beer tasting in our next segment. We're going to go right into the pumpkin ale, the Wasatch Brewery pumpkin seasonal ale. So we'll be back with that. Plus, I got to tell you about Cigars for Warriors launching their new fundraiser, and Hurricane Eta has not wiped out the cigar plantations. So we'll give you a little bit of an update on that. It's good news for cigar growers in Central America after the storm has passed over. So all of that updated next. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 211. A 211 in progress.
That's a robbery.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Forgot to mention this at the top of the show. We're brought to you by mycigarshirts.com.
Why?
Because cigars.
Because cigars.
They got great new designs, great gift ideas for the holidays. If you're a cigar lover, go out and support them. Buy a shirt. They start under $20, and they're a sponsor of the show. So you supporting them is a good sort of roundabout way of supporting Smoking and
Support
Toasting.
the show.
And we thank you for doing that. I tell you what, New Yorkers just can't get a break when it comes to cigars. It's already one of the most expensive states in the U.S. to buy cigars. They lost the big Nat Sherman store. It's just been almost no good news for cigar smokers. Now, the Empire State cigar tax has nearly doubled to check this out. The tax on a cigar in New York is now 75% of the cigar's wholesale price.
That's
75%.
unbelievable.
Right. And you know why this happens? Because no politician can get into office saying, I'm going to raise your taxes. So they have to get their money from somewhere. So where are they going to get it from? Well, they'll raise, it's considered a sin tax because it's cigars. So it's easy for them to do this. And it doesn't make any sense to me.
Isn't there some kind of thing like that? There's got to be a discrimination against cigar smokers act or something like that we have to be able to like that's absolutely ridiculous.
So here's what I can tell you.
That is government price gouging.
Here's what I can tell you. It's killing the cigar retail business in New York State. It's killing it. Because think about this. If you live in New York and you're a cigar smoker, and let's say you smoke, I don't know, a box of cigars every 2 or 3 months, right? So you're going to turn around and drop some money on a box of cigars. Are you going to buy it locally and pay a tax price on it that's 75% of the wholesale cost of the cigar? Or are you just going to go on the internet and, buy it from Cigars International or Holtz or someplace you can
and it's only going to be a minute before New York figures out, when you ship it into New York, we have to nab money too.
There is that. But the point of the whole thing is it's killing local business, which that is probably the only thing that will save it, is the fact that will get them in trouble with voters if they're killing local businesses. So we'll see.
It's such blatant, like that. They call it a sin tax, but I mean that's absolutely ridiculous. Do they tax alcohol that way?
It's like we're the last group that it's okay to discriminate against. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
it's just fine. Yeah,
everybody else has rights. Oh, you can't do that.
Smokers.
You can't discriminate.
And then they just lump smoking in.
Oh yeah, they lump us into cigarette
pipe
smokers,
tobaccos, and everything is just exactly like cigarettes to them.
Which it's not.
On paper, that's what they do.
Yeah,
and they just lump it all in there, and it's complete bull. That is so bad.
Well, so our hearts go out to our friends in New York, and if you live somewhere besides New York and you're going to visit a friend in New York, take them some cigars. It's one of the coolest things you can do.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't smoke cigars, take them cigars, and they can make money selling them for half price.
I remember a couple of years ago, I'm
starting a black market here.
Yeah,
sorry.
I know. A couple of years ago, I remember I went to California to work out there for about a month. I rented a place out there and was working out there for about a month. And Ian came out. We did a show out there while I was there at the Beverly Hills Cigar Lounge.
That was fun.
But I remember I called you before you came out, and I said, Bud, I need you to buy me a box of cigars and bring them out with you. And that's exactly what you did. You brought me, actually, I think you raided your humidor.
Yeah,
which
I just beat up my humidor and brought you about a
box. And
box.
bought me like a box worth of cigars, but it was
random stuff.
They were so expensive out there. I couldn't stand it. So anyway, thanks. And I hope I did ultimately.
Oh, absolutely. And that was actually, so between friends, that was actually such a fun trade, because I brought you a whole bunch of cigars. I brought a box of cigars for you and then some extras to smoke while we were there. And when we came back, you just kind of started laying on, 4 or 5 cigars at a time. But I got to try a whole bunch of different stuff that I wouldn't normally go buy.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was, I never knew what was coming up next. It was like this awesome little grab bag that would happen every week or two.
It's like you and me did our own big smoke. That's what it was. It was just kind of cool.
I actually kind of enjoyed that.
Speaking of kind of enjoyed, I took a sip of this Wasatch pumpkin ale while you were talking, and this is quite nice. It is very pumpkin-y.
This tastes like This tastes like a Marzen. They added pumpkin spice to it. I didn't read anything on this.
There's not a ton of information on there, but you might be able to get something.
Brewed with pure pumpkin and the finest barley, this amber-hued ale is spiced like your favorite holiday pie and is sure to please. Can we pour you a slice? So it's interesting because when you think pumpkin seasonal beers, you always think of that sweet pumpkin pie.
And that's not what this is.
No, this is pumpkin flavored.
Yeah.
But again, I think we mentioned it, maybe it was last week or week before, we talked about pumpkin soup, if you've ever had it. Pumpkin in and of itself is not sweet. It's like cinnamon. Like you always, when you think cinnamon, everyone always thinks, oh, it's sweet because we almost always add sugar with cinnamon. Same thing with pumpkin.
Right. It's
But
like
it's
a
not
cinnamon
sweet.
toast almost. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And pumpkin itself is not sweet, and this has that not so sweet pumpkin. There's a little of the pumpkin spice in there, but the sweetness in this is the natural malty sweetness that happens in a beer. It's not. It doesn't taste like there's a bunch of sweetness added to it. So
in fact, it's almost got a little bit of, I don't want to say sour, but a little bit of bitter to it.
A little bitter, yeah.
That is kind of one of the strongest things on the finish. It's a pleasant bitter, but it's not.
The only downside, and this is a very personal thing, the only downside that I could say to this is the retrohale. When you breathe out of your nose, it kind of is like potpourri.
It's like being in Michael's, the
little
store
bit,
Michael's around Halloween or Thanksgiving.
The retrohale is a little potpourri-like, but overall, this is drinkable. This is nice.
I think it's quite good, and we've had a number of different pumpkin beers this year, and I guess we got like one or two more before Thanksgiving gets here. But I thought it's interesting how different they have all been.
I've got to hunt down the I have to look it up. Which brand was it that was so good that we tried at the Brew Club one night? I'll look it up.
Was it the Pumpkinator?
No, it was. I'll think of it.
Right,
I'll think of it in a bit, but I've got to look that one up and bring it in and let you try it.
All right, I'm game. I'm down with that. By the way, as we move our way into the holidays, and we'll do pumpkin beers through through Thanksgiving, and then I guess we got to switch up to winter and Christmas ales, huh? For our ongoing tasting. I don't know whether we should try to do a blind with that, or whether we should, just taste one a week like we've been doing here with the pumpkin ales.
We've done blind taste tests on quite a few things over the last few years, and not necessarily blind taste tests, but we did. We've done shows where we have all the Christmas ales or all the pumpkin ales or all that. So maybe a blind taste test on Christmas ales would be fun.
That might be kind of fun.
That would be fun.
That might be kind of fun. Christmas or winter. I think we could do that.
Right.
That way you can include winter warmers even if they don't.
And, winter
Christmas in the
seasonals a lot of
title.
times also tend to be stouts.
And they tend to have that sort of fruitcake spice vibe.
Yeah, they'll have
to
that
them,
fruitcake
so that
spice
could be
vibe.
interesting. Well, anyway, as we get into the holidays, I wanted to let everybody know about a contest that you may want to enter. Your Christmas tree this year could be the envy of all of your neighbors, because Jameson Irish Whiskey is giving away 7 of its legendary Jameson whiskey trees. Now, here's the bad news. The bottles in the tree are not filled. But here's the good news. The tree is 9 foot tall and features a lighting system that makes the 130 empty Jameson bottles light up brighter than any Yule log you'd ever see. It's a unique, limited edition tree inspired by the spirit of John Jameson, who went to extraordinary lengths to share his whiskey with the world. That's the press
That's
release
awesome.
statement.
It's got
Anyway.
a lighting system that when you plug it in at your house and the neighbor's house, all dim a little bit.
Yeah, I
for a
love
moment.
that. I love that. Hey, if there were ever a year where we have a holiday season that needs a little bold, a little bold happiness to it, try to win this Jameson tree. Put it in your window. So, go to Jameson's website to enter. All you have to do is tell Jameson why your house needs the Jameson whiskey tree.
I have the best reason.
Yeah,
Because whiskey.
because whiskey. I like it. I wonder if that could win. Actually,
Because
you just
whiskey.
just fill out the form and
Dear
enter
Jameson,
because
whiskey.
I like it. I think that could work. All right, we're going to take a break and come back here in just a moment. We have more beers to taste. As a matter of fact, we're going to go IPA next, which is, not uncommon for us. But in this particular case, We're going IPA from the Parish Brewing Company in Broussard, Louisiana. These guys,
I expect good things.
These guys are the people that make what I think may be the greatest IPA ever, which is Ghost in the Machine. That beer is
pretty
so good.
amazing. Yeah.
So we'll see how they do with the Atticus Atlas, a triple IPA. That when we return, plus drinking news is on the way. And stop me if you heard this one before. That's the headline for drinking news today. So we'll be looking forward to that coming up. And we'll tell you about Hurricane Eta. Pretty good news actually for tobacco growers in Central America. So we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we are glad to have you with us for show number 211. Number 211. 211.
Robbery in Progress.
Robbery in Progress. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com, online at that very web address because Cigars, yes. And they've just got great and kind of snarky cigar shirts. I think my favorite one of the moment is the one that says, "I love cigars. You not so much." Yeah, it's stuff like that. It's fun stuff. Great for the cigar lover in your family or your your immediate circle.
Oh,
and
I thought of a cigar shirt, by the way.
Oh, go for it.
I don't know if the cigar shirts.com people are listening to this or not.
I bet I could get word to them.
But it just needs to have a picture of a cigar on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And then down towards the bottom of the back, it just needs to say, "Are you looking at my butt?"
That's good. That's good. There is one there that says cigar smokers appreciate a nice butt. There is one of those on the site. So there's a day I want you to write down on your calendar, if you would, please. It is Sunday, November 29th. That is
Sunday, November 29th.
Yes, this is the second annual Small Brewer Sunday. And it's a national beer holiday created by the Brewers Association.
It's for brewers that are only 5'4" or shorter.
That's right. It's a non-for-profit trade organization dedicated to small and independent craft breweries.
Oh, gotcha.
So
that's different kind of small.
So Small Brewery Sunday, basically it's just about getting out and supporting small breweries. Now, I watched a very interesting documentary this last week. It's several years old, but it was about some guys in Colorado building their craft brewery, and then they went to a bunch of different craft breweries around and talked about and all, of course, pre-pandemic, because it's several years old. But it's just fascinating watching, the process and what some of them have had to go through. We kind of think, these guys were, they were brewing in their garage or their basement, and they decided, hey, this is pretty good. Let's open up and sell it. But it's not that easy.
Right.
There's the whole process of having to turn a space into a functional brewery. I mean, ask our buddy Lenny from St. Arnold when they moved into that building they're in now. It took forever to get everything lined up and the right restrictions and permits taken care of. And, all the red tape. So anybody that launches a small brewery has gone through tons of bureaucracy, tons of red tape, and they just want to sell you some beer.
Well,
they
can you
just
imagine?
Want to make beer.
Can you even imagine what guys like Brock at St. Arnold had to go through opening a brewery where there wasn't any?
Where there weren't any craft breweries around to serve as the example.
And he literally was ahead of everybody in Houston doing that. And now, thanks to guys like him and some other earlier pioneers like opening a brewery, there's at least some precedents.
Yeah,
and
pathways have been blazed a little bit.
Pathways have been blazed, yes.
It's
they may not be easy.
It's still a
but
lot
at
of
least
work.
there's a path.
It's still a lot of work, though, and I just, most of these guys, they didn't get into it so much because they wanted to, build a business of some kind. They got into it because they wanted to brew beer.
Beer good.
Yeah, right. They want to brew beer and share it with people.
I like this beer. I should share it with people.
Yeah, there's a passion there that runs through the industry that I think we'll see. So, Sunday the 29th, it's Small Brewers Day. That would be a great day for you to, if you are, okay doing it, go out and visit a small brewery. If not, do a drive-by and pick up something to go from these small breweries, because I'm going to tell you, they need your support this year more than ever. The smaller they are, the more they need the support. We've had some really good sound effects today between you and Adam. That was spectacular. Parish Brewing, we got a good look at that can, right? It's a very interesting can with the
moth
the Mothman coming into full view.
That looks
hazy.
is hazy.
Yes. So this is a triple IPA from our good friends, and we have got to get those people on the show. I absolutely love
Parish,
their beers.
they're not that far from Houston. They have to come here once in a while, I'm sure.
And it would be such a pleasure for us to have these guys on because they are, in my opinion, one of
They're
the
in
best
Broussard,
breweries,
Louisiana.
one of the
This
best
has
breweries
the,
operating today. Yeah.
This has a moth on it. That's
Wow, I'm getting
Atticus Atlas. Is that the name of the moth? Probably.
It must be
Triple India Pale Ale. I mean, I'm assuming so.
Bruce
Moths
maybe
have
can
some
help us out.
crazy cool names, by the way. There's all kinds of good, and it's very simple. The rest of this is very simple. There's not a whole lot going on in this can besides a big, beautiful
But I love
moth.
the shininess of the butterfly or the moth there. It's really cool, really done well. This is all about mango and pineapple on the nose.
So I smell right off the bat some of that kind of resiny hops.
Well, it is a triple.
Right, and then you can smell the mango right away. Pineapple's kind of underlying once you said
Yep.
it.
Wow. So it's got big bitter on the finish.
Ooh-wee.
The front is
This doesn't taste anything
very
like I
fruity.
expected.
not from the nose,
I
right?
expected this to be sweet and a little sweet and obnoxious by the smell of it.
If you hold the beer on your tongue, in your mouth, and delay a moment before swallowing, you really get that pineapple. Once you swallow the beer, the finish and the retrohale are this big sort of, I don't know, like
Bitter
and pineapple wood or something. I'm trying to really put my finger on it, but there's a big bitter there. And the thing is, it's not necessarily a resiny hop bitter. It's got a different tone to it. Would you agree with that?
It's resiny, but it's not over. It's not like a burnt resin bad aftertaste. It's a bitterness that finishes. This is not a beer for the lighthearted.
Definitely not.
Like if you like big ridiculous IPAs, this is a beer for you.
Can you check and see what the ABV is on this? I'm guessing it's at least 8, but I could be wrong.
I don't see it on here.
You were right. This is not an IPA for the faint of heart. It's definitely big
Yeah, it doesn't
and
have an
bold,
ABV
and
on
it's
there.
a bit boozy.
It is a bit boozy. We could maybe look that up or hit on Stark again.
On Stark, yeah. What's the ABV on the
On the
Atticus
Parish Atticus
Atlas triple IPA?
That's awesome. We got Wiki Brian and we got On Stark.
Yeah, that's,
Those
between the
those
two
are
of them,
good
we have no
teams.
excuses for getting anything wrong on the show. I
so-
really like this. I don't know if this is to your palate or not, but I like this very much.
So this is an interesting contrast to what I usually enjoy, but this has a lot of great things going for it. First off, the mouthfeel on this is very much a hazy or
Yes.
even a juicy IPA mouthfeel.
It's not super thick. It's juicy though.
But it also leaves the mouth wanting like more. It leaves your mouth watering like for more. It is resinous and a little bit pine coney, but not really in a bad way. It actually works and finishes nicely like that. And it's bitter. This is not like a friendly, gentle kiss of bitterness. This is bitter.
Yeah,
And-
it's bitter in a big way,
Yeah.
and it also it's boozy enough. Like I can feel this. It's definitely a triple IPA. It's not.
Yeah, and it's a bit boozy, but I like everything about this. Even though on paper, if you write down everything I'm getting out of this,
it doesn't sound like.
it doesn't
something
sound
that
like
would-
something I'd like.
Yeah.
This is a package that works, and the bitterness, especially after a few sips, as you can see, I've mowed through most of my glass. The bitterness on this doesn't build up like a lot of the resiny ones that. A lot of the West Coast real resiny ones, they build up, and after a while, you just it's a labor to even take another sip because it's so bitter. This actually feels like it gets a little less bitter the more you drink.
What I love about this so much is that it shows that the guys at Parish can make IPAs that are so different from each other. You know how occasionally you'll have a brewery that they're really, really great with one style, but all of their styles seem like, second cousins to the other. These guys are making IPAs that are wildly and vastly different from each other in terms of style, and that I don't know. I just think that shows real skill as a brewer. I think these guys are the real deal. And Parish, if you were listening, we want you on the show. We'll be calling.
This would be, I think, an amazing thing to do a food pairing with, with a very bright fish.
Yes,
something not terribly fishy, but fish.
Yeah. But
or
fish.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like
some fish is real fishy.
Yeah, but
swordfish
you're
is
talking
not
about,
very fishy.
Yeah, you were talking about like a cod or some kind of whitefish or something
like
that's
that.
just really mellow and
because you could tailor like a lemon pepper ish kind of thing to go with this so well. I do. This would go amazing. I do salmon. And I put salt and pepper on it, and then I put a carpet of dill. And when I say a carpet, I mean you can't see the fish. It is a carpet of dill.
Right.
And then I slice lemons and just set it on there and put the whole thing on the grill, and it turns out amazing. This would be,
I bet,
absolutely fantastic with something like that.
I was thinking initially that this wouldn't be a beer to pair with a cigar, but then I started thinking, if you had something really earthy, a cigar that was really earthy,
maybe
it might pair up with this okay.
Well, so I'm going to also say this too, because this is so out to the left, bitter and different. I think you could actually do a cigar like a really nice big Connecticut,
right? That's
a very opposite
of what this is.
This is. So something that has a lot of campfire, something that has a lot of like freshly mown grass and some earthy flavors in there would actually not get buried by this, but complement.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that you could literally go buy like a nice big Perdomo 10th anniversary, and it would probably be really nice with this. As weird as that sounds, this would also go really, really well with a really nice rye whiskey.
Speaking of whiskey, by the way, we're going to be trying some in our next segment. Great King Street blended Scotch whiskey, and we'll be getting to our list of the most underrated whiskeys in the world. So we'll do all of that when we come back. You are checking out Smoking and Toasting, and if you needed any proof that that this is a good IPA, Ian just poured himself more. So.
Absolutely good.
Love it. Thank you to Parish, and we'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting.
Super quick
Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 211. It's a 211 in progress. And we are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Check them out today on the web. Shirts starting at under $20 because cigars, yes. Apparently, Wiki Brian chimed in that the moth on the front of the Parish Brewing Atticus Atlas can is, in fact, the Atticus Atlas moth. And it is the largest moth in the world. Is that right? Largest moth in the world. So there you go.
Pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. So every time the whiskey experts speak, our first question is always, did they reach out to our whiskey expert, Chris Hart? But I don't know, and I don't know if the guys from Forbes did, but they have spoken, and they put together a list. They say, we all know the whiskeys that get talked about all the time as being the great ones, the Pappy Van Winkles and the Whistle Pigs and the ones that get all this press, right? But they say there's some others that should be mentioned because they would fall into the list of the most underrated whiskeys.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. You know what's better than whiskey that you can't get?
What's that?
Whiskey that you can get.
You are correct, sir. You're absolutely right. Sometimes you chase after that elusive whiskey and then you finally track down a bottle and you discover, well, it's good, but it's not really better than this one that I can get anytime I want it.
And to play the opposite of that, sometimes it is. But the truth is, if it's hard to get and you can't get it, the whiskey in my hand is always better than whiskey that I don't have.
You don't have. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I guess that could be debated depending on the whiskey, but
Well, at least one.
Provided we're at least at this level of whiskey.
At least one of the whiskey experts that they talked to was a little reluctant to share his pick for most underrated whiskey because he was worried the same thing might happen to it. But they talked him into it.
That's why you want to keep it secret, keep it safe.
Yeah, they talked him into it. So now we will share it with you. It's the Glen Scotia single malt Irish whiskey. Is it Irish? Let me make sure I've got this right.
I've brought that on the show before.
Yes, it's. Am I pronouncing it right? Is it Glen Scotia? Glen Scotia, is that the way you say it? It says if you're looking for a genuine example of unique regionality in Scotch, that is the one to try. It's been overlooked in favor of some others, but it tastes like no other whiskey I've tried.
I've brought that on the show. That's really good.
It's really good. Nick Ridley, the author of World of Whiskey, recommended that in this article. Also, the 10-year single malt Scotch whiskey for a retail price of $34 a bottle from Speyburn.
Speyburns good.
Yeah, and this is the guy that says he really didn't want to share this because it's the crazed hoarders. You know, you can't find Weller or Heaven Hill Bonded 6 or Old Grandad or Elijah Craig Redbreast or any of those. But he says he actually does think Speyburn 10 is underrated, but no one will ever believe that. That's Lou Bryson, who was the author of Whiskey Masterclass. So I hear you. Ooh. Again, well done on the sound effects. The next one that is listed here is the Oppidan Smoke Plus C.
Don't know anything
Smoke
about
Plus
that.
C. Very cool looking bottle. They call it a weird little whiskey, a bourbon finished in Scotch casks, so it's sort of sweet, sort of smoky, sort of saline. It doesn't fit neatly into any category, but it deserves more love. Karen Newman, the author of Cocktails with a Twist, says it would make a wild penicillin. That sounds like a fun thing to try.
Penicillin?
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a fun thing to try. Akashi White Oak. It's a $47 bottle. It is a Japanese whiskey that is underrated, and it's hard to even imagine that because most of the Japanese whiskeys, I don't want to say they're overrated, but they're rated so well that they're hard to find and they're expensive if you do.
I think Japanese culture is so precise about how they do things, and there's so much pride in what they make.
Right. There's a precision that goes with all of that.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. The Belmead Sherry Cask Finished Bourbon makes the list.
Yes.
It is an $86 retail price. Belmead doesn't get as much attention as so many whiskey brands out there, but the distillery is producing incredible juice. Kat Odell, the author of Day Drinking, says she's partial to the sherry barrel expression because I love spirits with nutty umami notes, and that's how it's described. So, also on the list, the Old Forester 1920 Prohibition-style bourbon. It's a $60
I brought that on
bottle.
The show.
Yes, it's a $60 bottle. It's Old Forester 1920, this says, is, for lack of a better word, a shelf turd, meaning that it's always in your liquor store, always on the shelf. It's the opposite of a Chris Hart whiskey.
That's right.
It's not only can you find it, you can always find it, and that's a non-Chris Hart product. It is also a Brown Forman product, the same guys that make Jack Daniels, which means that most self-described whiskey snobs think they're too good for it. But those people care about hype and not quality, says the author of Hacking Whiskey, Aaron Goldfarb. He says, damn if it's not one of the richest, most nuanced and complex and downright delicious bourbons out there. Absolutely better than many of the allocated products you'll never see on the shelves. Glengoyne, 18-year single malt Scotch, sells for $160. It is on the list, as is...
You say 18-year on that one?
It's 18 year.
Yeah, I haven't tried the 18-year.
Yep, it sells for $160, so it's not a cheap one. But then we come to the $60 bottle of Compass Box, Great King Street Blended Scotch Whiskey. They say never underestimate the value of a good Scotch blend. This one ticks off all the boxes. It sips elegantly neat, tastes great in a highball, and plays well with juices and other cocktail modifiers. And that is Amanda Schuster, author of New York Cocktails. We are trying it neat. Ian, your thoughts?
It's delicious.
Yeah?
It's honey. It's a lot of honey.
Really wonderful on the nose.
A lot of vanilla. It's
yeah.
It's way too easy to drink. Now, this is a small bottle. This is a 375 mil. Is that
right.
the $60?
Yeah, the $60 is the big one.
Okay.
Well, the 750, the regular size.
The 750, right?
Yeah, right. This one I think was about $25.
Okay. At
So-
$25, even at the 375 mil, or 350 mil, or whatever it is, 375 mil, this is delicious.
You know, it really is. And we've had a number of
Oak finish on this,
Yes.
and you got to wait a minute for it, but the oak
Yeah.
finish comes back with a little astringency and a little whiskey hug. It's just a very gentle little whiskey hug, but there's almost none of the whiskey. Like there's no heat to this on the first sip
on
at
the
all.
on the front. No, there's not. But it definitely does come back in the whiskey hug. It's not huge, but it does come back in the whiskey hug. But Ian, this to me really could stand toe to toe with a lot more expensive Scotch single malt scotches.
It's
in terms of
surprisingly
flavor. In terms of flavor.
surprisingly delicate too.
Yes, it actually reminds me of several of the much pricier single malts that have undergone some pretty heavy duty oak aging.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really, really am enjoying this. This is a great sipper. It's got some complexity. There's a little apple peel in there, like green apple peel in there.
Especially after the finish.
There's, and in a great way, there's a little bit of almost an apricot kind of back there. There's some fruitiness going on in here that I wasn't expecting at first, and after a couple sips, you start picking up.
And you mentioned honey. Honey's kind of the
There's
first
a lot
thing
of honey
that you get. There's
and
a
bit
lot
of vanilla and
Yep,
that oak. I love.
It's a delicate oak, though. It's
I
not
love
like
that oak aftertaste that's happening, and you got to wait a couple moments.
Yes, it's not like a
after
really
you're done.
dark oak. Like some whiskeys, the oak flavoring is much darker, deeper. This is very light and very. I don't know.
Almost a brighter kind of flavor.
Bright
Yeah,
is the word I think I was looking for. Yeah, but
This
it's delicious.
smells
Yeah. Oh, it smells
amazing.
Great. It smells great. It's great on the nose and great on the tongue. And then
There's a
the whiskey hug
maltiness
is-
to the smell that doesn't quite cut across in the flavor of it, but it smells so good.
I feel like this would pair easily with cigars. That you could go.
This would be
almost-
super easy to pair with cigars.
Yeah.
However, not anything too big, not too
Right.
peppery.
right.
But also this with a cheese and fruit tray.
Ooh, baby.
I mean, a nice charcuterie tray. Mm-hmm. This would be just an amazing sipper with something.
I'm
like
thinking we need to maybe think about changing the name of this show to Smoking and Toasting and Eating. Wouldn't that be good? I think I would like that.
that. Smoking and toasting and munching.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is quite good. Quite good. I have to say I'm very pleased with it. Very pleased with it. Amanda Schuster, the author of New York Cocktails, is the one who put this on this list. And this is a Forbes magazine list, by the way, that I'm looking at. To round out the list, Evan Williams' Black Label at $14 makes the list. Everything that bourbon is supposed to be, says John McCarthy and Carrie Jones, the co-authors of Be Your Own Bartender. It's 86 proof. It's got a little spice to it and still has that rounded bourbon feel. And here's the secret, they say. Bourbon's not supposed to be expensive, dude.
It's bourbon.
Yeah, great neat on the rocks or as a shot and a workhorse in cocktails. And a 750 milliliter bottle will set you back around $15. Now, if you want to spend a little more money, I do recommend this next one. By a little more, I mean, in the neighborhood of $69, $70. The Balvenie Double Wood 12-year.
Oh, so good.
So I got out to my brother-in-law Mike and Jen's last year at some point. We were all getting together for like a family get-together, and I went to. I remember I brought some beers and stuff, and I went to his bar, and he had a bottle of this 12-year Doublewood. And it hadn't been opened. I said, "Oh man, I don't want to open your bottle." He goes, "Oh no," he goes, "I don't really drink whiskey, so help yourself. I prefer other stuff." So I basically have been drinking. It's now gone because I've been back a few times. But I've basically taken down his bottle of Doublewood, and I'm going to tell you, it's just spectacular for a whiskey to just sit there and sort of sip slowly all evening.
So I have a funny Balvenie Doublewood story. It starts off with I like Scotch, as most stories that I tell do. Not every story.
No, because some
story.
of your stories are, I like bourbon.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
you know, so
and,
that there's
and sometimes I like beer.
Yeah, right.
But no, this one starts off with I like Scotch, and you know, I teach guitar. So one of my students, he's an adult, and we got to talking about beers and Scotch and stuff like that. And for Christmas one year, he comes in and he hands me a gift thing, and it's a Balvenie Doublewood, the 12 Doublewood.
Nice.
I was like, oh, I hadn't tried this, and so I try it, and it's so good. And I annihilate that bottle in, you know, a couple months. I didn't like.
Right, you'd take
I
it all
didn't just
down.
sit-
Yeah.
but I tried to nurse it out, but it was so good, and I didn't pay attention. And then I tried a few years later to grab another bottle of it, and I saw Balvenie Doublewood, and I grabbed the bottle. And I get up to the cash register, and it's like $140, and I was like, "Whoa!" And I realized I grabbed the 14
Oh, instead of the 12. Yeah.
instead of the 12. But I was like, "Okay, we'll just go ahead and do that."
So, in your opinion,
So that was the
because you're
first time I tried the 14.
So you're talking about a price that's substantially more than the
Almost
12.
double.
Almost
Not quite
double.
double, but almost
Was
double.
it worth it?
It's so good. I mean,
Yeah.
the 14 Doublewood is so good. The 12 Doublewood is so good. It's hard. Like, to be honest with you, maybe. Maybe it's worth the difference in price, but I enjoy both of them so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after tasting it, and especially a few times, I didn't complain about the price.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something.
it's kind of
but-
like with the Florida Cagna 18. It's like, you know, the 25 is just sublime. And you think, okay, the 18 is going to be a little step back. And it is, but it's still so
But
good.
still so good,
That
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, okay, this is worth every penny for it, you know?
Yeah, and so, but then it starts to come like the Balvenie 12-year Doublewood is so good on its own, and if you're gonna spend that $150, you can go in there and you can buy the 12-year-old, and you could go buy Glenmorangie La Santa,
Oh, God, that's so good.
which, by the way, I was at Specs the other day, is like $45.
I know, it's very
That's
reasonable.
less than it used to be.
It's very reasonable, yes.
And they have new packaging and everything, and it's so good. Like, you could actually buy 3 great whiskeys, or 4 if you're looking to less. You know, people ask me, you know, because I have a show that talks about spirits and all that stuff. They ask me if I'm a whiskey snob. I think I'm. The more whiskey I taste, the less snobbish I get, because you will find Weller 12 on my shelf all the time. That's $18 a bottle.
Well,
Is
that's
it
kind of
good?
what,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
And that's kind of what
know?
they were talking about with the Evan Williams. It was like, okay,
Right.
don't be a whiskey snob because it's good.
Yeah,
you know?
you'll find wild turkey. Man, I used to not like wild turkey, but that's because I didn't know how to drink it when we were kids. We'd drink it as shots. Almost everything sucks as a shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, that's just the truth, you know. But if
Listen.
you're sipping it, it's totally different.
Listen, Slain,
Unless it's Jim Beam. Then
Slain,
it's a little questionable.
Slain Irish whiskey
Slain is
at
great.
$23 a
Yeah,
bottle.
it's great.
Holy crap, it's good.
Jameson.
Yeah,
Jameson is
Jameson.
fine, man. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. That Caskmate series that they came out with
Yeah.
is outstanding. Like,
Well, I'll tell you, there's
Love
nothing
that
wrong
stuff.
with the Green Street, with the Great King Street, rather, either. This is very, very tasty
here's a
whiskey.
testament to how good this whiskey is. It's got us just sitting here talking about awesome whiskey at a good price. Like, that's how good this whiskey is.
Rather than saying, yeah, this is okay, and then kind of changing up, talking about
It
something else.
smells so
It's
good.
got us going on the whiskey topic here, which is never a bad thing. It's one of the
I'm interested to see what the Hey.
see what the beer does if
what
you
are
go
you
back
doing
to it.
in there.
You get a little friend,
Yeah,
little protein.
I don't think you drank much.
Well, at least he went out in a fun and positive way.
Man, so the whiskey completely washes out the beer. As
Well,
a matter of
you're
fact,
right.
it takes so much of the bitter out of the beer.
I was just about to say, now I've got just this juicy IPA
Yeah.
without all that bitter. That's so interesting. Well, it's always interesting to tell how things work with each other. All right, when we come back, drinking news is on the way. Plus, we will get to the bottom of. Well, we'll get to the bottom of probably several bottles of several things, but we're going to be trying this wonderful Mexican coffee cake beer. I say wonderful. I haven't tried it, but I have a feeling it's going to be wonderful, and I'll be surprised if it's not. It is going to be well, yes, please. I see you Do I look crazy? Yes, please. More of that.
Yeah, this
Thank
is
you.
outstanding.
Thank you very
Adam,
much.
how do you feel about this whiskey?
Double
thumbs
thumbs
up.
up. Double thumbs up. So Westbrook Brewing Company is what I was trying to get to. Their Mexican Coffee Cake Imperial Stout will be coming up, plus drinking news, plus I promised you that hurricane report, so a lot left to do. You are checking out
Drinking news.
Smoking and Toasting.
In a little bit, it'll be time for drinking news.
You know, some week shows are just fun to do. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting, show number 211. It's a 211 in progress. My name is Cruze. My erstwhile co-host is Ian Barry. We have Adam
crazy.
on the wheels of steel, and we have a sponsor, MyCigarShirts.com. They have very cool shirts for cigar lovers and cigar
Hoodies.
aficionados, and hoodies. They have a really cool hoodie. In fact, I'm going to order one of those this
Do you
week.
know,
I'm excited.
I never used to wear hoodies when I
Yeah?
had long hair.
Yeah, because your long hair would get bunched up in the back of the...
Yeah, it was kind of an annoying thing to have when you have really long hair. And then on top of that, my neck just didn't get cold because I had a long hair covering it.
Right, so you didn't have to worry about that.
And then I got my hair cut short, and I love hoodies
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah. Keeping that neck warm, that's a big deal. Yeah, it's a big
Because
deal.
I can't stand
You know what else
like
they have?
cold air right on the back of my neck now.
You know what else they have at MyCigarShirts.com? They've got a really cool face mask, and it says, "As soon as I take this off, I'm having a cigar." I'm going to order that in a hoodie this week, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you,
Yeah,
actually.
it's almost hoodie time. We're still really warm here in Houston, Texas, our home city, but you know the cold is coming.
Yeah, you know, I actually wore a flannel shirt last night when I was sitting outside having a cigar.
See? Yeah, it's starting
Because
to
it was a
happen.
little below 70, and I was like, you know what? Flannel shirt just feels good.
You know where it's still warm? Florida. That's a hint.
You gonna tell me about it?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you all about it. It's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news, drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. So gather a cup while we gather round. Saddle up while we drink 'em down. I've got a story, and I swear it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. I asked about his absent arm. He said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Cheers, y'all.
I'll just mention, by the way, we've decided we want guests to do that line. So record yourself. You can just do it on your phone and send us the file saying, I had to take my gator to the
I had
vet.
to take my gator to the vet.
And send it to us.
We're just going to insert it into the
We're
song.
just going to insert it into the song every time. We want so many different people to do this that we have a whole stack of them, a whole inventory that we can use.
Speaking of which, you remember Chris Morris, who's on the show just
Yes.
recently.
Right,
So
yeah.
I texted him.
I love that dude.
He also plays guitar. And I texted him because he sent me a text a while back saying that he was almost finished with his drinking news song.
Oh.
And I said, okay, but I hadn't heard from him in a while. So I texted him today right before the show, and he texted me back and said he suffered a grievous injury to his thumb
Oh, not
on
good.
his fretting hand. So he hasn't been able, but the song's ready.
Also not good for a bartender, by
No,
the way, you know?
not good at all.
A
So I don't know if he
mixologist
was
as
like
he is.
viciously cutting a lime or something. I'll have to actually catch up with him.
It was a margarita shaking incident. Oh man.
But yeah, so whatever happened, we will have a drinking news song from Chris Morris at some point in time in the future. Also, my father-in-law is in the throes of writing a drinking news song.
Drinking news song. Wow.
Yes, he's working on it. I'm helping him with it. He's a
So this
fledgling
is-
guitarist at the
This
moment.
is becoming a thing then.
It's infecting people.
I know. It's like, it's alive. Well, Ian, Drinking News is here. And the headline, the title, stop me if you've heard this one before. Ready? I'm about to utter those immortal words. A Florida man from Indian County, Florida, was arrested for DUI. Police pulled a man named Earl over after seeing him driving suspiciously, but Earl insisted to the cops that he was innocent.
What?
Why, you ask?
Yeah. Why?
The Florida man said, because he only drank at stop signs. You see,
He's not drinking while he's driving.
when
of
police
course.
pulled Earl, the Florida man, over, he admitted that he'd been, that he'd had a couple pulls of Jim Beam. But he said it wasn't drunk driving since he only drank it at traffic lights and stop signs.
Hey, you cannot peck that logic. It's very impeccable.
His breathalyzer showed that Earl's blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit for Florida. So police loaded him into the car and took him to jail, and off he went. He had 2 previous DUIs in Missouri.
In Missouri?
Yeah. No indication of whether or not he used a similar defense in those cases. But yeah. So just in case you were thinking of trying that one, drinking and driving, the defense: I only drank at stoplights and stop signs.
Now, wasn't our last
doesn't
week's
work.
show about a person from Missouri?
Yeah, I believe it was. So we
we might just be following this person around.
That's developing here. And there's your drinking news. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Drinking news, and now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Cheers, y'all.
That's so much fun to do. Thank you for joining us. Drinking News is always in the final segment of the program, so it's a good reason for you to stay tuned. All right, Ian, juggle or something, entertain folks while I dive down.
I can air juggle. That's pretty interesting. I'm like a clown. So the Drinking News song, we'll be having new verses coming up at least once a month starting this next month. I have one in the works. I will be working upon
Yeah, well, I'm glad
more and more verses. And I also will take submissions, but
I'm glad you had the Florida Man verse today, though, since we had a Florida Man
yes,
story.
I have one that I started. I think I started it a little bit last week where I'm talking about a guy in his motorized cooler driving on the freeway. That's going to be one. But if you guys have suggestions or
For a verse?
For a verse, yes. Please let me know.
Very cool. Well, as Ian goes,
I need to write one about the guy that has a penis on his arm.
well, that was probably our most outrageous drinking news story so far. The man who
I
was
still laugh thinking
growing
about
the
that.
penis on his arm. I laugh about the fact that the next week, I remember I was starting to get texted by our buddy Alan Denny, who runs the Galveston Island Cigar Lounge, and apparently you had gone down there, and you guys had the YouTube version of the show up on the video screen,
Yes.
and were playing that segment with the drinking news about the guy with the penis on his arm, and the entire place was just going absolutely
The
nuts.
place was going crazy, and there was a couple ladies that were there, and they were cracking up watching this, and they were like, "Who are these people? Like, these people are crazy," and they're cracking up and stuff like that. And Alan just looks over and he goes, "It's him." And they looked over at me and they looked at the TV. They're like, "Really?" I was like, "I don't look that different, right?"
Hurricane Eta made landfall on the coast of the east coast of Nicaragua on November 3rd as a Category 4 hurricane. We talked about this on the show. We were actually quite worried about it,
Yes.
but as it turned out, it weakened to a tropical storm the next day as it passed over the country's growing regions. And by the time it made its way to Honduras, it was downgraded to a tropical depression. The storm's biggest impact came from its heavy rains. And the official reports have the death toll in Honduras at 57. For Nicaragua, the death toll is much less at 2. But for the cigar industry specifically, it's still quite early in the growing season, so some fields had not been fully planted with tobacco, in some cases not at all, and the damage to the crops, according to Nestor Plasencia, has been minimal since the rain had been constant, but not much. He says, we're estimating about 4% damage to what they had planted to date, 3% in Honduras and 1% in Nicaragua. Oliva was also counting themselves lucky in the wake of the storm. In Jalapa, they said we had more rain and wind, but fortunately not too much damage to our fields. Eduardo Fernandez, who's growing about 1,400 acres of tobacco in Nicaragua this year at his agricultural conglomerate Aganorsa, shared the sentiments and said basically we got kind of lucky. Christian Arroyo from CLE said he and his family plan to grow anywhere from 200 to 300 acres of mostly Corojo seed tobacco in the valley this year, but it only caused them a 1 or 2 week delay in terms of transporting the seed. So really, it feels like the Central American tobacco growing companies dodged a bullet, as it were. They did take on some flooding and hardships, but we aren't talking about massive crop wipeouts, which is a good thing for those of us who smoke cigars from that region. Ian, I see you eyeing that bottle. You've got your glasses on. You look very serious, as if study is warranted. Tell me about what you're seeing and what you're tasting.
So this is Westbrook Brewing Company, Mexican coffee cake.
And that's what it smells like on the nose, I can tell you that.
This is nothing short of amazing. Like, this is outstanding.
Okay, so tell me what it is. Now, I've just tasted
Imperial
it, and
Stout.
I agree, but I want to know what it is that sends you to that kind of superlatives.
Let's just read a little bit of this first. Imperial Stout brew with chilies, cinnamon, vanilla, cocoa nibs, and coffee added. 10.5% by volume. Way back in December 2011, we brewed our first anniversary beer, a serious Imperial Stout aged on cocoa nibs, vanilla beans, cinnamon, and fresh habanero peppers.
I can taste all of that in this,
It was
by the way.
so delicious, we decided to infuse this version with coffee and bring it back once each year. Best consumed fresh or cellar at 36 to 40 degrees. 36 to 40 degrees and bottled on 7/7/20. So this is a pretty fresh bottle.
Yeah.
And this is outstanding. So let me tell you what I think about this. First off, it smells amazing.
It's got a great nose to it.
It does. It
A lot of
smells-
coffee on the nose.
I love the mouthfeel to this. It's not a super thick mouthfeel, and
No,
it's
it's
also
not.
very little carbonation overall. But what's there is just right for the
Gives it just
for
the
beer
right
itself.
amount of...
The chilies. I'm not a big fan of beers that are real spicy.
I agree with you completely.
I'm just not. I don't like the spicy that's just stuck in the back of the throat. Like,
Right.
I love spicy food,
I'm the same way.
but
Ian.
I like my drinks not to be spicy.
Yes, I usually like the drinks to wash down the spicy food.
Yes.
That's the combination
Exactly.
I like. But
There are exceptions to this.
Well-
But for the most part, I'm pretty stringent. If it's got jalapeno in the liquid, I'm probably not going to drink it. But if you put jalapeno on my food, I'm super
I'm
happy.
going to eat it, yes.
Right.
Well, this feels so much more balanced to me, though.
The chilies are there. You can taste them. You have that chili flavor, but the chili heat is not there.
Right.
And so
There's
get
a
the
tiny bit of a
flavors.
tang, so you get the flavor, but not the heat.
But you don't have a lingering heat in the back of your throat that you can't get rid of because you're drinking to try and get rid of the heat in the back
So-
of your throat. But
right, so it
the
reminds
drink is
me-
what's putting it there in the first place.
You know, I'm always bagging on that Dos Equis Mexican Pale Ale, but that's what it does. It leaves that pepper taste in your mouth, and it just...
and you can't get rid of it because you're
Right.
drinking a beer that has it in it.
And the reason I don't like it is it obliterates all the other flavor. I like the pepper flavor, but I don't want it to knock everything out.
And sometimes it builds up. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, okay?
Right.
There are, like, Eureka Heights makes Mu Caliente,
It's
which
good.
is spicy, and it's nice. But
It's not
frankly,
something I would drink every day.
Yeah, it's not something
but I
I can drink a
enjoy
whole
it when
bunch
I
of,
have
but-
it. Yes.
they also take that Mu Caliente and they'll barrel age it. Mm-hmm. And that kills a lot of the heat that comes from and that is amazing. That's
Yes, I
delicious.
agree.
This right here has that same property of it just doesn't leave us a hot spicy in the back of the throat, but you taste it on the
You know
palate.
there's spice there. Yes.
The cinnamon is definitely there. The vanilla, cocoa nibs. I mean, this tastes like almost like a. I mean, it tastes exactly Mexican coffee cake. I mean, it's like
It's well described, isn't it?
yeah, it's so good. The coffee in this is so good too because the coffee's not such a slap in the face bitter coffee. Mm-hmm. The vanilla beans, the cocoa. I mean, everything's so good in here. Mm-hmm. I would highly recommend this if you can find this.
Well, apparently they do this every year, which is pretty exciting.
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, that's
And
that's
the
really,
finish
really
on
good.
it. The finish on it is coffee
It feels
and
like
chocolate.
it feels like a perfect beer for easing into the winter, doesn't it?
It's coffee and chocolate without being too sweet or too coffee. It's like this amazing balance.
It is
Westbrook, good
It is
job.
really complex. All of those flavors that you described, you can taste every single one of them distinctly. I always talk about this with people who are audiophiles. It's like, when you're listening to a really great stereo system, when you hear the guitar right here and the violin right here and the piano right here. They're distinct and separate from each other instead of being all just in a big mash together. And that's kind of how I describe the flavors of this beer. They're distinct and separate from each other. They work well together.
And this
but
is
you
like,
can taste them distinctly,
in
each
an
one
art
individually.
context, it's like the difference between looking at a picture of a piece of fine art and
looking,
standing in front of the actual piece.
Very well
It's
said.
a big difference. And,
Very well said.
And even though you can have an amazing print of something, so I'd say this right here is the
That's the
actual
original
piece. Yeah,
That's the original mofo right there.
This is so good, and it's the depth of character in this is amazing.
Depth of character. Well, this seems like a good place to begin to wrap up the show. We want to thank all of you for coming in and checking out Smoking and Toasting, and thanks to Adam, our producer on the Wheels of Steel, as always, for making things run. Ian, we did pretty well today. We had a good pumpkin ale. We had an IPA with a moth on it that was just
really bizarrely good IPA.
Really, really spectacular. We both really enjoyed the whiskey.
Maybe we like too much stuff.
Those guys that accuse us of liking everything, this show is not going to help our case. Yeah, it really.
Do I
isn't,
need to be like that guy on America's Got Talent, where I just like
where you hate everything?
Hate everything.
Yeah, I think so.
Simon, that's his name.
Yeah, but of course, that's the big thing on that show is because he hates everything. Then if he likes you, it's like a big deal. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well,
he likes me. He really likes me.
I don't want to be that guy because I like all of this, and it's really, really tremendous. Everything we've had today has been a big thumbs up. So, okay, taking a look ahead for Smoking and Toasting, we are going to be here next week, and then we will have a week off for Thanksgiving, and then we'll be back with you starting in December. So it's really weird to think about talking about December and the holidays and Christmas time, but we will be turning our attention very shortly to Christmas beers and ales. I think we do want to do a blind taste test this year. Okay. That'll be fun.
Christmas ales.
We have that plan. Christmas ales and winter ales.
Basically winter seasonals.
Yeah,
which
winter
will include
seasonals.
all that.
It'll be awesome and exciting, and I'm just I'm looking forward to being able to wrap this year up for Smoking and Toasting. It's been a good one. We hit 200 this year, and even though the pandemic made things
halfway
weird,
to 300.
We're halfway to 300, and pretty excited about it. Thanks to everybody for checking us out, and don't forget Christian Olave is going to be on the show soon, and he'll be talking about I think he wants to talk about Jura. So
nice.
Really psyched about that. So have a great week, my friends. Thank you for tuning in and for checking us out in the podcast. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel. And thank you for supporting Smoking and Toasting and our sponsor, MyCigarShirts.com. Have a great week. And as we love to say here at the end of the show and in the middle and the beginning of the show, cheers, y'all.